Greetings, y'all. Welcome back to The Middle Gay. We are doing something a little bit different today. I actually have gotten somebody to agree to be interviewed by me. A wonderful person that I had met on TikTok, and a self-proclaimed conservative transsexual woman. So why don't I bring Tabby in, and we will get to know each other really much better than what we do. Okay, so let me invite her into the room. Hi, Tabby.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. I really, really appreciate it. And the show today is about you, and some of the stuff that we face in the LGBT community that's going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and where they can find you?
Well, you can find. I'm mostly on TikTok. When I'm not on TikTok, I'm hiding in my Discord server. I've built up a Discord server that's all about empowering each other, and it's full of just the most beautiful trans women and women, and a couple men that are in there, where we can support each other and have conversations. Because unfortunately, on TikTok, you can't certain conversations you just can't. But most nights you'll find me on TikTok under right there, Tabby underscore 1.0. Or if I'm currently Nannerd 2.0, or if that's Nannerd 3.0, 4.0, or 5.0. Because voices like mine are rarely tolerated because I go against the narrative. I don't toe the line, as it were.
Okay. And in which way do you not toe the line? If you can give me an example.
I acknowledge my biological reality. I don't deny biology. I know I'm biologically male. But I I'm I have this thing. It's a mental disorder called gender dysphoria. And I really want to destigmatize saying that I have a mental disorder. It's nothing to be ashamed of, nothing necessarily to be proud of. It's just a thing about me, right? I have an incongruence between my perceived gender and my outward appearance. Um, that's called gender dysphoria. That's called being trans. That's part of what it is. And a lot of people, the appropriate narrative, as it were, is more in line with trans women or women. And if you have an innate sense of being a woman, you're a woman. In the story, done. And because I speak against that, a lot of times I get told I hate myself. Why do I hate my community? Why do I all these other? I'm a gatekeeper. I'm a trans medicalist. All these other things that okay, so I gatekeep and I believe you need a medical diagnosis to transition, or you should anyway.
And using the term, an older term, something that was kind of fallen out of use, transsexual. Why are you bringing that back?
Well, it's not just me bringing that back, but transsexual is actually a medical term. Typically speaking, transsexual means you've gone through your post-op, you've had the bottom surgery, you've had your innie turned into it, you've had your outie turned into an innie, and that's what makes you technically a transsexual. Everything before that is your transgender. Um, Me and quite a few of my friends and a lot of the other girls have decided to again bring it back because these people we see these people on TikTok, you see these people on Twitter that have they look, no offense, Rocky, but they look like you, right? But
Right.
they call themselves a woman. No, it's not the same struggle. Um,
No.
so I wanted to differentiate what I'm going through and who I am from the people that just okay, so you like to wear a dress and some makeup sometimes. Good for you. You do you, boo. We're not the same. I'm going through a thing. I'm going through medical care. I'm going through uh, medically guided procedures to try to get to where I'm going to be more comfortable in myself, hopefully.
And how long have you been in your transition?
It's been officially a year as of last month. Middle of
Okay.
last month was my 1 year anniversary, as we called it, my Tranniversary. And I'm sure if you come to my TikTok lives for any amount of time, you'll see my pre-transition pictures. If you find me on TikTok and you go and look, I don't hide my old pictures. I don't call it my dead name. I don't call it my dead self. I'm not. I'm still that person. I'm still alive. That person's still here. That person is what gave me the strength to become what I'm becoming. So to deny that would be to deny myself, and I won't do it.
Hmm.
I realize, and I understand how some people might see it because it doesn't feel good, right? It doesn't feel good sometimes because there's a lot of bad memories associated with that, and I can understand why people would want to disassociate from their past selves. But all of that led to this, so I'm going to keep on. I'll hold on to that. Plus, I like looking at. You've seen it. I used to have a. For those, if you don't go follow me, I'll just tell you. I had a long Grizzly Adams beard. I look like a mountain man to
I think
this
I've
in a
only
year.
seen your marine pictures.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, hit me up
Hmm.
afterwards. I'll send. I'll show you the old one, the one right before I transitioned.
Okay, awesome. So I know in your lives, you fall under um, more of the conservative side of the political spectrum. And I've been noticing, in fact, my first YouTube video was um, a response to a podcast about conservative LGBT.
Hmm.
And there seems to be, at least from what I've seen, it's definitely a what I have experienced, a concern for us in the community shifting more right. Now, do you find it harder to be a conservative? Do you feel like the at once you might have been consider yourself liberal and then like all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're like, how did I get on the right? Or was this something that you're falling within policy and belief structures?
Loaded question, and there's lot there to it. A couple different things. Just because I'm trans doesn't change my worldview. Doesn't change my position on taxes. It doesn't change my position on free speech, world affairs, any of that. None of that changes just because of my sense of self and my gender dysphoria. I still feel the same way. I still feel like these are important topics. I'm not a single issue thing. I'm not a single issue voter. It's all of it. I want to look at the bigger picture, and if the candidate is going to meet all those needs, then they're not going to be the candidate for me. As far as my political leanings, I've always been, I guess you would call me a classic liberal, is the term I hear a lot of people like Dave Rubin. Dave
Yeah.
Rubin is one who was always liberal, but the problem is, and if you don't know the term, but the Overton window has shifted. So those of us that were center, or even center right or center left, the window shifted so much one direction. We haven't changed. Our opinions haven't changed, but the opinions have gone away from us to where at one point we were on topic of pro life versus pro choice. Legal, safe, and rare has become on demand, and that's just an example of that window shifting. My opinion hasn't changed on it. The window moved away from me, and now I'm practically this staunch. I get looked at like I'm this crazy conservative. No, I just think everyone should have a right to do whatever they want to do, what they're going to do, as long as you're not harming someone else physically.
Yeah, I totally understand that because like I always considered myself, on the left, and I marched on Washington in 2000. I fought for marriage equality here in New York, and
Hmm.
all of a sudden I am now a transphobe or
Me
have
too.
internalized homophobia, and I'm like, and my understanding, and please, I'm trying not to make any assumptions about anybody, but I just wanted to assimilate into society. I wanted to go to the water cooler, if you will, and talk to
Hmm.
Jim and be like, "Hey, how was your weekend with your wife? You went to that thing, and me and my husband, we went and did that," and it not be a thing. And
Yeah.
from what I hear from some of the trans community, is that they just want to, do the same, basically. Just
Well, no, here's the thing. For the longest time, and again, I've only been out for a year, but I've gotten to know a lot of some of like the elders within my community, the elders within my community, and they talk about it often. How trans women in the past always just wanted to assimilate in and live stealth is one of the things that we talk about a lot. Um, they just wanted to live stealth, and I wanted to live stealth. I didn't want to be out and talk about trans issues nonstop on TikTok. That's not what I wanted to do. I came from the political side of TikTok, where I was talking about taxes, and I wanted to spend my day talking about SCOTUS's ruling on Colorado today, but I couldn't because I had to discuss whether or not it was appropriate for trans women to be in a locker room, and I feel like I have to do that because if I don't, it's somebody else's voice sharing, and people are going to associate that with me and say, well, trans people, well, not all trans people. I don't think that. You know, we can get into that if you want, but trans people, not all trans people, we're not a monolith. We're individuals. Talk to us like an individual. Don't assume anything about me because I'm going to blow your mind. I don't have the same opinions as other trans people, obviously.
I mean, looking at your shirt, transgenders for Trump. Um,
Only because I can't find one that says transsexuals for Trump.
mm.
If anyone owns a print shop and wants to make me one, let me know.
I will definitely pass along any messages I get, and by all means, find Tabby on her TikTok. It's actually very awesome. Um, I again, I just have to say, I'm very happy that I met you on TikTok and that we've been um, communicating and building a friendship. So, speaking about transsexuals not being a monolith, one of the biggest topics right now, and you touched upon it with trans in the women's spaces. Um, I'm going to kind of skirt that issue a little bit. Um, I personally, and I think you agree with me on this, wherever there's the least amount of disturbance, just plain and simple, it just keep. So one of
That's
the ones that it does.
that's a good rule of thumb. But I know a lot of people go, you pass, you piss. But that's another one that everyone goes with. But wherever you cause the least amount of disturbance, that's where you should be.
And because I'm not a trans woman nor a woman, I don't overly like to talk about that particular topic.
Hmm.
Um, I will support the majority in certain situations. I mean, let's face it. Almost everybody knows who Blair White is. If she walked into a man's bathroom, she's gonna have some issue.
Right?
Um, so I my rule of thumb, I don't like to cause disturbances. I don't like to affect other people in a negative way. So that's where I kind of land on that. But one of the things that I would really like to turn our attention to for a little bit is the transing of the youth. And it didn't really hit me. Are you familiar with Brianna Ivy and her story?
No, refresh me.
She was one of the she basically all transitioned by like age 20, and
Mm,
she had one of the only two type of experimental bottom surgeries. Um, and it went horrific for her. She was on Buck's show. She's on
okay.
Instagram. She's what really touched me about her and got me really kind of passionate about this topic, um, is she literally said if she grew up, without all of the trans influence on her, she doesn't even know what she would have been.
Hmm.
And to me, that made me feel like, oh, one of my gay brothers just took a bullet.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, we're friends. I have people in my life that are trans. Um, but to see the youth not know what they're going to be, like, don't know what they really are, and I now
Hmm.
have to accept who I am because there's nothing I can do about it. It was really, really
Right.
eye opening. So I guess my opinion, as somebody who is trans, would you have wanted to start your journey earlier? Do you think doing the kid, like, is the kid thing a good idea?
It's always a tricky question, right? Because we know how I end up. We know what the end result was. I'm going to get here eventually. So that's one thing. That's always, yeah, sure. I would have been a success case because I know where my journey was taking me. However, uh, I mean, there's plenty of research studies out there. I believe there's one by Harvard that shows most of these kids that are gender questioning and that are questioning their gender, if given therapy and given time, it passes. And a lot of them end up, they do end up being gay or lesbian. They don't have to transition to be these things, and that's fine. It's good. Um, I've long stance, and my stance when it comes to children. Okay, we're gonna get controversial now, Rocky. So buckle up.
Okay, all right, let's get ready for the comments.
Um, Trans kids don't exist. You they can question their gender, and that's common, right? Um, but to fully develop the gender dysphoria isn't there yet because they're not developed enough yet to understand to have a full grasp of what that means or what they're saying. So to say that they're trans, you don't know that because I do have a stance on being trans. You do need that medical diagnosis of gender dysphoria. You do need these things uh, to get there to start these things because this is a lifelong commitment. And once you start, there is no stopping. There's no I'm going to start it up and then go back off. If I stop today, I have breasts now. I have to have a surgery to remove those. Um, my body hair is no longer growing. My fat is redistributed. I'm always going to be without my makeup. I know, without my makeup, I kind of look vaguely like a butch lesbian now. I'm never going to be able to grow that Grizzly Adams beard again. And these are things that and I feel so bad for the when I see the detransitioners, the little girls that thought they wanted to be a trans man, they started T, and now they're talking like this, and they're going to talk like this the rest of their life. But I have to go through voice. They have to go through the same voice therapy that I have to just to get where I am, and hopefully have some semblance of a voice to get back to where they were. Um, so, in my opinion, if a child comes to you expressing these questions about their own gender, um, find them a therapist and not one that's just going to immediately affirm. Find them a therapist that's going to dig into this and see what is causing those issues and work with them. And then after a while, if they're still feeling that way, let them do a little social transitioning. Let them grow their hair out or cut it off. Try different types of clothes. Is this the life you want to live? Because so much in the media portrays the trans thing as so easy and so beautiful, so awesome. There are some really awful days. There's just some, it's not all sparkles and rainbows and sunshine. It's tough. So try it out first before you start the medical thing. I know, you might end up looking pretty, in your face if you don't go through puberty, but the fact of the matter is, if you halt your puberty, you're halting so much more. Your brain development, you won't have enough tissue for a surgeon to work with later on, and you're going to want all that tissue if you're wanting to have different operations. And these are all things that we don't take into account because we want to just take it into account the current. They're creating a lifelong problem for a short term a lifelong solution for a short term problem. So
Mm.
let's dig into that and find out what's going on first. And then you know what? At 18, if you're still feeling that way, by all means, let's get you on the E. Let's get you on the T. Let's go. But it'll wait. It might pass. You never know. Don't assume anything about anything.
I have kind of mixed feelings about the start time of 18. I um I feel like your brain. I know that your brain still develops into your mid 20s, and then possibly even more. Right? We don't really know everything about the brain, and
Hmm.
this is messing with it. I'm kind of like, and it kind of goes even to like drinking. I'm like, you can go to war at 18, but you can't buy a beer. I'm thinking maybe you can't get some HRT unless if you can buy a beer. Like maybe even like 21 would be a better idea. But
I only say 18 because that's the legal age of adulthood.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think you should start having surgeries until you're, in your mid 20s. Because hormones are easier to are easier to reverse. Surgeries are not. The cats. If you follow my TikTok, you'll hear the cats often. Um, so
Who identifies as a dog? Oh no, it's the dog who identifies as a cat. My bad. I'm so
thank you.
sorry. I misspecies you. Oh, I that's it. I'm going to jail. I'm
You're
horrible.
canceled.
I'm canceled. Before I even really started, I canceled. I kind of feel that way on TikTok a little bit. I can't tell you how many of my comments have been violation of community, and I'm like, I'm gonna be doing a whole video on that. But like seriously, one of them was us gay guys too.
Mm.
But anyhow,
One,
that's a
I've got it
tangent.
for say. I've got it for saying. I've gotten my comments banned before saying trans woman or trans woman.
So ridiculous. So ridiculous. So getting into a little bit more controversial. Um,
Let's go.
all right. So it seems as of late that there is an increase of trans people. And it seems to be, um, the rhetoric for that is that more people are just open about their identities. But recent studies show, and I can look it up to give you the exact numbers, that the population of young white middle class girls 10 to 16 are the fastest growing demographic within the community.
30%, I think it is.
That's huge. I remember when gay was starting to become a thing and people were recognizing it, but it was hitting every demographic for the most part. You didn't see such spikes or differences between. What do you think is causing this difference in one particular demographic?
Oh, well, I think we're seeing a larger number. You know how I do my lives. I got to remember my voice. Get back to my voice. I can hear Willow and all of them yell, "Time to get to your voice." Um, it's
Oh, Willow.
So if you come to my lives, I'm shameless plug here. Come to my lives, you'll meet all my friends. I'm going through voice therapy now, so I fall in and out of my voice all the time, and my all my friends yell at me, "Heavy voice check." So because it's for me, I want to come out that way. But I think we're gonna see. I think we're seeing a bigger increase in people identifying as trans or coming out as trans. And I see this two different things, right? You got us Gen Xers here who, when we grew up, you remember what it was like, Rocky, in the 80s. You know, you if you're, God forbid, you're gay, you're risking getting your behind beat every single day,
Oh yeah,
and then
it
on
was.
and then and then on top of that, this, and we had no word for this. Um, and if you want, I can tell you. I think I've told you that story about how my dad dealt with this when he found out about this and why I went in the closet so long. But we're finally the Gen Xers, and probably some millennials, older millennials, we're finally starting to see that it's safe, it's fine, you can live and be authentically you now. No one's going to come at you. So that's that group, right? But then the youngers, and I think a lot of times with the youngers, and you're right, this is controversial to say, but there is a social contagion, that these younger, and it does seem mostly to be the young ladies, um, who they're missing something, right? They're not getting something at home, that validation at home, that attention at home that they need, and so because they're not getting that, they're seeing all this love and validation people get on social media, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, Insta, all the different social media platforms, and like, I want some of that. I want someone to tell me how beautiful I am. I want someone to tell me how wonderful and special I am. And so they latch onto this thing, because they just see the glamorous part. Because social media only most people on social media only show the good stuff that's going on in their life. They don't tell you about how I was jumped by four teenage boys at a mall just because I was trans. You don't get to hear about that story. You just see, well, uh, I can get a Bud Light sponsorship, maybe. I can become a famous Instagram model and do a makeup brand deal. So so there's that social contagion. So they jump onto this, and they want to be special, and then they do it for a while, and at some point they realize, oh geez, I kind of made a mistake, but I'm really deep now. I just had a double mastectomy, and I don't know if I really feel this way.
Right. I didn't think about our generation. Like, because I kind of feel like even though we didn't really have much of a name for it, I feel like it wasn't, and this could just be like because it's not my story, right? Like, it wasn't, I mean, we had the drag queens, and those were mostly just gay men performing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had maybe like one or two and I hate to use the
Who?
term true trans, but like one or
Who?
two,
Who were
like,
they? Who were they though? You can't. All you can think of, the only ones I can think of, the Bond girl, who you find out later on, some random Bond girl in the background was actually trans. But there was no people out
oh,
there
there was
talking
definitely
about it.
no representation.
None.
None
And so
whatsoever.
so there was no. I never. The only word we had for it were the slurs, because it was porn. It was the only
Right.
representation we had, and that wasn't me. But I knew, stealing my mom's clothes and having a stash of them in my closet, and when no one was around, wearing them made me feel more comfortable.
Mm.
But I didn't know there was a word for it.
I mean, I could not imagine, honestly. I always called myself a late bloomer. I came out, like, truly came out when I was almost 19.
Hmm.
And even then, we're talking the late 90s. Late
It was
90s.
just starting to be a little bit more acceptable, and people are a little bit more like, oh, well, whatever.
Yeah. But I grew up in a small town,
Hmm.
like, and everybody knew everybody. And, I was definitely the more effeminate boy in the class. And, I was like, damn, I wish I knew that, who I was. But I, um, I do think that these young ladies are dealing somewhat with a social contagion, and I know that that's going to get us mad hate, um, because it's latching onto something that is, like you said. I think that's a really good analysis of what it could be.
Hmm.
Um, I would take it even a step forward for these young ladies, that they are being told constantly how bad it is to be a woman. You make 70 cents to the dollar if as the overall, and then it goes less and less per type of lady that you might be, whether you be African or Asian and so on and so forth, right? Um, and you're told it's a man's world, and you're told all of these things, and I think that that might even play a part in it. I mean, it is not the 1970s. Women do not need their husband to have a credit card. I mean, is anything perfect? No. Is there still homophobia, sexism, racism, and all that? Absolutely. But, and I know that this is controversial, I feel like, at least with the gay community, once we got the right to marry and work rights and whatnot, for the most part, we were good. Like, I didn't really feel like I needed to like go out anymore. There's
Mm-hmm.
the individual person who might have an issue, and there still might be somebody, a hiring manager somewhere who's not, the greatest person in the world. But for the most part, it was pretty good. But so, another controversial topic, and we'll try to wrap it up because um, although this conversation is great, I'm totally enjoying myself. Um, and I kind of know the answer to this from you, but
Okay.
there seems to be some rhetoric about how the transgender, it isn't the transgender's job to educate or make women comfortable. That said, what do you think about this stance?
That's short-sighted. Um, Women, and I'm going to speak to any of the trans people that might be listening to us right now. Women fought for us. Women gave us our rights. Women came alongside of us, held our hands, and walked us into the ladies' rooms. It was women that gave us the comfort, that gave us the acceptance. So it's on us. And now there's so many trans people that are just trampling over women and ignoring what women are saying, and basically berating women for being women. Um, and you'll notice, and I'm going to point this out to your viewers. I don't say cis woman. Women are women. They're not cis. They are not a subcategory of themselves. So I don't use that term, and I encourage anyone out there, don't acquiesce to this culture. Women are women. Um, they are the blueprint. They are what I wish I could be with every fiber of my being. So I will stand next to and fight alongside with them to protect them and protect their rights, just like they did for me and those like me before I came along. I'll see you in the comments about
I
that one.
can't. Yeah, I can't disagree with what you said. I really really can't. Um, I try not to use the term cis women myself. Does it happen in certain situations? Yes, but I try really hard not to do that because, like you said, they're not a subset of themselves. They are
Exactly,
the
and it drives me crazy. Um, I get in these lies and like, I'm a cis. No, babes, you're just a woman. That's
yeah.
awesome. That's awesome for you. Why would you? And if you don't mind me taking on a slight detour here, um, the I don't like people taking away the term trans woman. I'm a trans woman. Trans woman, a trans woman. Um, I have worked
It's
too
okay.
hard to get here for you to take that away. Women have their own struggles. I'll never understand their struggles. They'll never understand my struggles. Why are you going to take away something that is so special to me that I've worked so hard for? I waited so long to do by taking away my label, for a better lack of a better word. I'm a trans woman. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of what not I'm not proud of being trans, but I'm proud of what I'm becoming in spite of being trans. So that's my
Hmm.
little rant. Sorry.
No, I feel that way, eh, similarly as like a gay man. Like for the like it's a small fraction of what I am, but it kind of goes on to that, like I am a subset of men,
Hmm.
straight men. They are 90% of the population, yada 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 yada. So I can understand somebody using that term when describing me. Because if it's relevant to the situation, it's the way to identify. I hate that word. To call out the difference.
Mm-hmm.
So now something kind of fun. So I want you to pretend.
Of all
And
the
if you could
questions, this is the one I was dreading.
I want you to pretend that if you had a magic wand or fairy dust or whatever, and you can make the world perfect in your opinion, what would it look like in the community?
Well, first of all, I believe the use of fairy dust is a little cliche, don't you?
Yeah, but
Anyways, just do you mean by our community or society at large?
start with our community and then move into the larger society at large.
Just I don't know. Be open to having conversations. Without having to, drag someone down. I try to have conversations. Every now and again, I get a little spicy in my TikTok lives, but I try to have, legitimate, good faith conversations with people I don't agree with necessarily. Um, so I encourage people to don't shut yourself off to having conversations with other people just because they don't agree with you. You might find there's more common ground. You might have more middle ground um, with that person if you just have a conversation. So
Okay. And what
be more open to a conversation is basically what it comes down to.
I mean, I think that that's really the only way that we will um, make anything better in this society, this world, this community, all of it. I mean, I can't even just like on a political tip, I call out the I am a registered Democrat and I call out my side. Just like within the gay community, I'm sorry, I'm going to call out my community.
Let's go,
That does
Brandon.
but without being able to come together and just not be open. Yeah, I concur. I think that's a good way to make the world better.
Because we see it all the time, right? Where that's you get your comments taken down. I get my accounts taken down because people don't want to have that conversation with someone they don't agree with. They want to silence you, and
Yeah.
that's a big problem. Quit
Well,
silencing voices you don't agree with.
well, we're not going to get silenced, and if when we do, we just get a new account or we keep
Then you'll
on
find me on
trucking.
Tabby 2.0.
So, Tabby, I want to say thank you for joining us today. I had a wonderful conversation, and I will obviously let you know when this posts, and I will see you on your lives. All right.
All right. Thank you, Rocky.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Well, that was my friend Tabby, and I'm going to sign off myself here as well. It was great being with everybody today, and I hope that you might have learned something just getting someone else that's not in the majority narrative of the community. So, blessed be, my friends, and until next time, bye.